Alright guys, today we're going to be reacting to US versus German Constitution. We're going to compare both documents with the lady here in front of me. Shout out to her channel. It's Adventure of La Mary. Hopefully we can get a little bit of information from her channel. Hopefully she's still making more videos. We're going to simply jump in. Make sure you like to subscribe. Also for donations. Links in the description. Also super chats. And for more videos like this, go to my Discord. This is from one of my videos from my Discord. Let's jump in and see what's going on.
On today's episode, we're going to talk about the Constitution, more specifically, the US and Germany. So let's compare the two and see if America truly is the freest freedom to ever freedom.
My goodness, they really hate this. Man, they really hate the United States. Oh my God.
Hello, Yin Lieblings, I'm Mari, science fiction and fantasy author who's been living in southern Germany since 2014. So today we're going to talk about the US Constitution as well as its German counterpart, which is called the Grundgesetz, or Basic Law. So when I came to Germany and I had to take my Leben in Deutschland, or Life in Germany test in order to qualify for permanent residency, I had actually noticed, because some of the questions were specific about the Deutsche Grundgesetz, that a lot of it looked very similar to certain passages and amendments in the US Constitution. They were familiar enough that I passed. I didn't think much of it after that, but a subscriber did actually ask me to compare the two, and I thought, that is an awesome idea. So here we are. But before we get started, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell if you haven't already. Here on Adventures of Lamati, we talk about writing, living abroad, and everything in between. So before we go any further, I have to clarify that I do not have a law degree. I studied biology and Spanish. I am not Barack Obama, who, by the way, was a constitutional law professor for the University of Chicago Law School from 1992 to 2004. I am a normal person, a normie.
Yeah, but he was very bad at it, though. Obama was not good with the Constitution. He passed a lot of laws. He was trying to pass Obamacare, which was completely unconstitutional. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? We still passed through Congress, but a lot of states have challenged Obamacare, and a lot of them won the case. That's how good he was.
Who's trying to quickly, briefly, and easily explain my interpretation of an otherwise big and complicated topic. So for the sake of brevity, I may oversimplify some stuff. Please don't at me. Instead, if you do want more information, all of my sources I have used to create this video, I have put in the description below, so read away. So let's start with some basics. The U.S. Constitution was first drafted on September 17th, 1787, and became effective on March 4th, 1789. It is actually the successor to the Articles of the Confederation and Perpetual Union, written by the Second Constitutional Congress in the mid-1776 to late 1777. It is considered to be the first permanent constitution of its kind, and has since been the influence of later constitutions all over the world. Now, it's not the first constitution, it's the first permanent constitution of its kind. It's FYI, because I know I'm going to get comments on that. But the U.S. Constitution itself is made up of 7 articles as well as 27 amendments. The first 10 amendments are called the Bill of Rights. The Constitution also dictates that the U.S. is a constitutional presidential republic with 3 branches of government: executive, judicial, and legislative. The Grundgesetz for the former West Germany was approved on May 8, 1949, with the signatures of the occupying Western allies of World War II on the 12th of May. It came into effect on May 23rd of that same year. It is called a basic law and not a constitution because this document, it was considered to be an interim document until Germany would be reunified, and thus a unified Germany would come up with a proper constitution that would override the basic law as per Article 146 of the Grundgesetz. So the Grundgesetz itself has some extracts from the Weimar Constitution, and there's also, I think, some influence from the Frankfurt documents, which was the result of the London Six Power Conference, which consists of the 3 Western occupying powers, which is US, United Kingdom, and France, and the 3 Western neighbors of Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg, as they debated the political future of the 3 Western occupied zones of Germany. Blah. The Grundgesetz itself has 146 articles and dictates that Germany is a federal parliamentary republic with 3 branches of government: executive, judicial, and legislative. And yes, that is in the Life in Germany test. So what I do find it really interesting is, first off, that if you look at the political climate at the time that these constitutions, for the sake of simplicity,
It's very similar.
constitutions
Yeah,
were
it's very so far very similar, right? Some changes, of course, because of the times, and of course allowing Germany to just govern themselves afterward, right? So far so good. So far so good.
created. In the US, the inspiration for the Bill of Rights especially were written to essentially give the metaphorical middle finger to their time as a British colony. So if you look at those first 10 amendments, you will see that those rights, that we actually had those denied. We actually had those rights.
Slow down. You have to slow down. You have to slow down. That's why you're having. Sometimes I have the same problem. We have to slow down.
Denied to us. So the goal was, as a new country, we wanted to be better than the English towards our own citizens. On the other hand, Germany's Grundgesetz was created in the shadow of both World War II and the Holocaust, and the country made a very thorough list, remember, 146 articles, to try and create a government that would be immune to the situation that allowed for the rise of Hitler in the first place. It's all really fascinating. And so in order to kind of go a little more in depth, but also not make this a really long and boring episode, I thought, how about going through the Bill of Rights, so the first 10 amendments, and see if Germany has those as well. I also figured it would be poignant to, given U.S.'s current political climate and our claim that we are the freest country to ever freedom because of our Constitution. So I thought, let's...
Yeah, there's a huge debate on that based on what a lot of people are saying. Because a lot of people don't really... Listen, folks, I don't think people really like freedom, man. I don't think people really like freedom. Freedom does requires a lot of responsibility. I don't think people understand that. As an American, right? I don't think a lot of Americans do understand what freedoms entail. People think that freedom is just there and you just leave it there. That thing needs to be protected. Not only that, freedom means that a lot of people are going to do stuff that you're not going to even like. That's free. It's freedom. It's freedom. Right? Like,
see if Germany can compete.
Let's see.
So I'm going to do a lot of reading. So I apologize for that. So let's start with the First Amendment. Freedoms, petitions, and assembly. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Yeah. So, what does the Deutsche Grundgesetz say? Well, in terms of freedom of religion, we can look at Article 4. Freedom of faith, of consciousness, and freedom to profess a religion or philosophical creed shall be inviolable. The undisturbed practice of religion shall be guaranteed. No person shall be compelled against his conscience to render military service involving the use of arms. Details shall be regulated by federal law as well as...
Man, hold on. I need to read this. No person shall be compelled against his conscience to render military service involving the use of arms. Okay. Details shall be regulated by a federal law. Okay. Right.
Extracts from the German Constitution of the 11th of August, 1919, the Weimar Constitution. That's Articles 136, 137, 138, 139, and 141.
Very detailed.
In terms of freedom of speech and press, we have Article 5. Every person shall have the right freely to express and disseminate his opinions in speech, writing, and pictures, and to inform himself without hindrance from generally accessible sources. Freedom of the press and freedom of reporting by means of broadcast and film shall be guaranteed. There shall be no censorship. In terms of freedom of assembly, we have Article 8. All Germans shall have the right to assemble peacefully and unarmed without prior notification or permission. In the case of outdoor assemblies, this right may be restricted by or pursuant to a law. And the freedom of petition against the government, that is Article 17. Every person shall have the right individually or jointly with others to address written requests or complaints to competent authorities and to the legislature.
So you cannot...
Yeah, Yeah, we have it. In terms of the First Amendment, Germany has it as well.
Yeah, but hold on. You see how you just swapped this under the rug? It's different. It's different. Yes, we have it. Oh, hold up. No, you don't. You don't. There's certain rules here that need to be just followed. Like you have to submit certain permissions to even complain. And not only that, based on what you guys told me in some of your comment sections, uh, you you cannot have a different opinion offending another person's state of, how do you call it, dignity. So you have to finish an argument in a neutral position. So that's not very similar to the United States, right? When you can debate and you feel crappy after that debate, hey man, take the L, go back home, and just practice have a better debate. That's not how it is in Germany. Even though it is in their constitution, there's some parameters that clearly are restricting certain things, and it's not wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong, right? It's not wrong or right. I have to just emphasize that because each country needs to understand the limitations, right? Because if you bring the First Amendment as a constitution similar to the United States to play in South America, it might not work. It might not work. And you bring the the articles of free speech from Germany to France, it might not work either. So we have to be careful. Very different. Very different. She glossed over that. It's not that freedom of speech that you're thinking about. I don't think she. Let's see if you explain it.
Now, Second Amendment, the right to bear.
See, yeah, she just glossed over it. It's very different. Very different. Very different. That's why you guys call it freedom of expression, not freedom of speech. Freedom of expression, which is, oh my goodness, there's a lot of distinction between both.
Bear arms. As opposed to the right to bear arms. Ha, you saw what I did there. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Obviously, I have not found anything similar to this in German basic law, but like I said, these laws were created based on the political climate at the time and what was considered vital.
That's not true. That's not true. There's a lot of letters regarding Hamilton and Jefferson, and even Adams, stating that you can't even own ships with cannons as a citizen. And the reason is because it's it's basically trying to avoid a tyrannical government. That's why we have the Civil War. That's why the Confederates they went against the current federal government, the former federal government at the time, because they felt that they were going against a tyrannical government based on their, you know, based on the circumstance that they were saying that the government was trying to get their slaves, basically, right? And also taxes. They were not in favor of the taxes. The North wanted to put a lot higher taxes on the South. So they said, you know what? Also, they were afraid of the bare arm, that the government was going to take their arms. Yeah. So they is against the tyrannical government. That's what it is.
The right to gun ownership, as far as I know, was never threatened in Germany. It has always been legal, considering it's always used as a tool for hunting. So I think just the overall German cultural mindset, there was never a need for an amendment to state something that's essentially obvious.
Was yeah, that makes sense, I guess.
And automatic, I feel like, but it was not a right in as a British colony, and there were very serious consequences if we were caught with weaponry.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's kind of why we have it.
The British will kill you, man. They will delete you. They delete you, man. If you have if you have guns, right? As a citizen, as a British colony citizen, whatever they call that, they will delete you. So yeah.
Why it was made at the time, it has not aged well. I know. I
No,
know.
I disagree. What are you talking about? We need more, man. You need more. I mean, I mean, criminals are just getting guns left and right. It's not because it's just these, and a lot of people don't understand this. A lot of these guns that come here illegally, they're not coming from the United States. They're coming from Afghanistan, South America, Russia, China. They're not even American made. AK-47. We don't build AK-47 here in the United States. Right? A lot of these guns are coming illegally from around the world. We have, citizens need to step up and defend themselves. The police cannot. First of all, we don't have a good police force. Our police force is fat, lazy. You cannot put all your will to a bunch of police officers that cannot even, do their job. That's my opinion.
Third Amendment. Quartering of soldiers. No soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. Yeah, we'll get into that in a moment. We're just going to go on ahead to the Fourth Amendment, which is search and arrest. Right of the people to be...
that one is if it isn't during the war, if it is out of the state of war, right, the soldier cannot be in your house, kind of a thing.
Here in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So I think both of these amendments are kind of covered in the Article 13 of the German Grundgesetz, which is the home is inviolable. Searches may be authorized only by a judge,
a warrant,
or when time is of the essence by other authorities designated by the laws, and may be carried out only in the manner therein prescribed. There's a lot more to Article 13, and I'm just only reading those two. But there's also Article 10, the privacy of correspondence, post, and telecommunications shall be inviolable. Restrictions may be ordered only pursuant to a law if the restriction serves to protect the free, democratic, basic order of the existence or security of the federation or of the land. The law may provide that the person affected shall not be informed of the restriction, and that recourse to the court shall be replaced by review of the case by agencies and auxiliary agencies appointed by the legislature.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. All right. The Fifth Amendment, which I feel like anybody who's watched any American TV show or movie, you hear about pleading the fifth. This is the fifth. Rights in a criminal case. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without compensation. So first we have Article 17A, which is the restriction of basic rights in specific instances, and that's having to do with military service. Laws regarding military and alternative service may provide that the basic right of members of the armed forces and of alternative service freely to express and disseminate their opinions in speech, writing, and pictures, first clause of the first sentence of paragraph 1 of Article 5, the basic right of assembly, Article 8, and the right of petition, Article 17, insofar as it permits the submission of requests or complaints jointly with others, be restricted during their period of military or alternative service. And laws regarding defense, including protection of civilian population, may provide for restriction of basic rights of freedom of movement, Article 11, and inviolability of the home, Article 13.
Man, they really were trying to avoid what happened in the beginning of the 20th century, man. They're really trying to avoid it. Wow. This is insane. Wow. They try to crack down and try to craziness.
I feel like it's kind of a stretch. It is, like I said, they're similar in terms of when you are part of the military or, serving in some kind of force, there is some restrictions to overall basic rights, there's some kind of you have some rights, but obviously there's some exceptions to certain things because you are, performing public service.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's like I said, it's a bit of a stretch, but that was the one that kind of forced. Sorry.
Remember, you have to see it from the perspective of what happened in the early 20th century. You see, what happened in the beginning of the 20th century, it just opened to a lot of people to question a lot of the democratic process. You cannot blame them. You cannot blame them at all. So this is where
the
we're coming
Sixth
from.
Amendment, the right to a fair trial. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have assistance of counsel for his defense. This Article 19, there's also, going back to restriction of basic laws, there's legal remedies. So insofar under this basic law, a basic right may be restricted by or pursuant to the law. Such law may be applied generally and not merely to a single case. In addition, the law must specify the basic right affected and the article in.
Well, these are articles, right? These are not amendments. These are more like articles. They're underneath the amendment. Am I right here? Because articles are more like categories inside the amendment. So I'm just wondering how strong some of these articles are.
Which appears. In no case may the essence of a basic right be affected. The basic right shall also apply to domestic legal persons to the extent that the nature of such rights permits. Should any person's rights be violated by public authority, he may have recourse to the courts. If no other jurisdiction has been established, recourse shall be to the ordinary courts. The second sentence of paragraph 2, article 10 shall not be affected by this paragraph.
You need like a real scholar to really try to disseminate this thing, because wow, even me reading it, I'm like, man, I have to read this. You have to read it a couple times because this is way too thick.
I feel like that was the closest. We go into the Seventh Amendment, which is rights in civil cases. In suits by common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. There is no German equivalent. I have not seen a section on civil cases in German basic law. But, I mean, I could easily be wrong. If I am, please let me know which article that is, because, I mean, it was 146. So the majority of those articles also have to do with just, like, you know, how the government is built, the
See, it's a little different, yes. Even though it is a constitution, it's a little different. It's very different, yeah.
And you know, what our articles do, as opposed to our amendments. So, yeah, if I'm wrong about that, and with civil cases, let me know in the comments below. So, Eighth Amendment, bails, fines, and punishment. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. So Article 19, paragraph 2, in no case may the essence of a basic right be affected. All persons shall be equal before the law. Men and women shall have equal rights. The state shall promote the actual implementation of equal rights for women and men and take steps to eliminate disadvantages that now exist. No person shall be favored or disfavored because of sex, parentage, race, language, homeland, and origin, faith, or religious or political opinions. No person shall be disfavored because of disability. So I feel like these are similar only because it is the
actual amendments on race, ending slavery, and gender vote are in Amendment 15, but we aren't covering those.
No cruel and unusual punishment should be inflicted, as well as everybody should be.
Yeah, but here's the thing: these are very subjective matter. What is cruel? What is not cruel? Right. So, this is where both constitutions start going kind of crazy, because this is where the waters. Because if you're making somebody to pay $1 billion in bond, is that excessive? Or is a person have a net worth of $100 million, but you make them pay $2 billion? Is that excessive? You know what I'm saying? Like,
equal before the law.
I just don't know.
Obviously, given the current U.S. political climate, that's not the case. But that is what it does say in our Constitution, and we should be following that. So, Ninth Amendment, rights retained by the people. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. So this is actually a tricky amendment to interpret. Nobody has really sat down and and agreed on this one. Because at the time it was written, our forefathers knew that we couldn't actually list all of our rights. So this was kind of a blanket statement to kind of say that if there wasn't a right that was not mentioned before, but it is a right that is accepted by the people, it doesn't make it less important or less valid. So to put it plainly, there is no German version of this, but only because if you were going to have a country that was going to be thorough and make sure to list every possible right, it would be Germany. So I feel like they wouldn't necessarily need a comment like this, because they would go ahead and list the rights, because that's just what Germans do. I don't know, but there's no German equivalent to this. And last but not least, the 10th Amendment, which states rights. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. So everything I have named before falls under the basic rights section of the Deutsche Grundgesetz. This part is in a different section that has to do with like distribution of power, like the building of the government. So this is Article 28. Municipalities must be guaranteed the right to regulate all local affairs on their own responsibility within the limits prescribed by the law. Within the limits of their functions designated by a law, associations of municipalities shall also have the right of self-government in accordance with the laws. The guarantee of self-government shall extend to the basis of financial autonomy. These bases shall include the right of municipalities to a source of tax revenues based upon economic ability, and the right to establish the rates at which these sources shall be taxed. There's a lot more to Article 28, but I'm just reading that part. So there's also Article 29. Revisions of the existing divisions into Länder shall be effected by a federal law, which must be confirmed by referendum. The affected Länder shall be afforded an opportunity to be heard. Again, there's more to Article 29, but I'm trying to keep this brief. There's also Article 30. Except as otherwise provided or permitted by this basic law, the exercise of state powers and the discharge of state function is a matter for the Länder. And Article 31, federal law shall take precedence over land law. So obviously, this is just the tip of the iceberg in a breakdown of the U.S. Constitution and the German Grundgesetz. Again, what I have found so interesting is
But that was the most important part. Why you didn't go to the meat and potatoes here? Like that, the 10th Amendment, giving the power to the state, is what makes our country so unique. And then I'm not saying that there's always other republics just using very similar system. No, it's just the state right is a real issue. State right is what really keeps the United States government together. Okay, we're going back to even when they redacting the Constitution, one of their fears were to make sure that the state rights were not violated. It's not only just written down as an amendment, it's what just keep this machine going. Then we go to the Civil War. We have slavery, we have the taxes, and also state right issue. Right, state right issue. Even during the war of the Civil War, Robert Lee needed to ask money for the Confederate States, but he was afraid, because if he asked for money for the Confederate States, he was afraid that the state would leave, because he believed in the state rights. Of course, Confederacy just allow the state to just secede from that union. However, the Confederacy Union, from where the North was fighting, you couldn't not secede. That's why the war happened. Because when the Confederates declared the war, saying that we secede from the Union to create our own country, the North said it was unconstitutional, and it was, of course, validated by one of the I think it was the federal government against Texas in 1865, after Texas got back to the Union. He said, "Bro, you cannot secede the Union. The Union, it is the Union permanently. You can't do anything." State right is what made the United States so interesting. That's why you see a lot of battles against the federal government and the states. That's why when Biden went down to Texas to say, "Hey, I want to open the borders," Texas said, "No, I want to close the borders." He said, "You don't have the power to go through that. I'm going to send my agents." Texas said, "Fine, we're not going to allow your agents." The court says, "Texas, you have to get out." The federal government has the authority to do whatever the hell they want with that court. Texas said, "Come here, and get back and just try to threat my authority. It's because they have state rights. That's what it is. State rights. And the states are always checking the federal government. The federal government is always checking the state, but it's not at the same magnitude that some of the other republics have. It's very high tense. It's very tense. It's very high stake. Very high stake. So that 10th Amendment, she could have just go a little bit deeper, even though Germany has a very similar system in that regard. It's not as high stake as the United States, when state literally has their autonomy to govern themselves and do crazy stuff. And the federal government can simply just step back and say, that's state right issue. I don't want nothing to do with that. But I wanted her to go a little deeper on that. But it's fine. It's fine. She did a good job either way.
Clearly see the difference, even in the wording. What was important to the people at the time that these documents were written, whether it was the 1780s or the 1940s. Whew! So what do you guys think? Did you find it interesting, or did I bore you to tears? If I bored you to tears, I'm really sorry. And if so, why are you still watching? If this show bored you, go away. This is for the people who are interested in this nerdy stuff. Anyway, thanks for joining me today. If you are new here, please consider subscribing.
But she never went. What was her conclusion on whether or not United States or Germany was more freer as a country? We never got to that. Well, it's already great job, by the way. Great job. You went very deep into some of these articles. You study some of the German Constitution, but the German Constitution, the word is very thick. It's very thick. Like, you have to be deep into the stuff to just really understand it. So I would love to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section below. But yeah, when it comes down to the state issue and state right in the United States, it's the real deal, man. It's not only you here, federal government, and here you have some responsibility to state. No, it is a constant confrontation against the federal government. Whether it's blue, red, it doesn't matter. It's a constant high stake confrontation. Like, a civil war can explode tomorrow or today. That's how high it is. A civil war can start today. That's how high those stakes are. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and I would love to hear your guys' opinion. In the meantime, I'll see you in the next one.